McGookin. Is it clicked in already, is it?
Yep.
Are we off?
Yeah.
Mr. McGookin. Let's get Ernie in there. So come off the hour, come off the big man. Putting the great back into Britain. He has got that dragon. He might be brown bread, but he's got a bit of a cheeky grin there, hasn't he? There you go. Bit of a cheeky grin.
No, I don't get the questions up.
From the dragon.
No.
That's right. They've hang on, you can take us now. Oh, they've changed the format. There we go. Well, anyway, like and share, like and share. I'm just going to stick my Facebook on for 2 seconds. And I should like and share as well. And then we'll have ourselves a show. So,
I am getting questions.
loads to talk about tonight. God, right, softreps.com, there we go. Takes its time. Grace must be downloading vegan stuff again. Make it slower. There we go. Right, where have we gone now? There we go. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Here we go. One share. Share now with public. Copy the link. Go on to here. Share it on here. Here we go. We're getting there. We are getting there slowly. Takes a bit of time, but it'll be worth it, folks. I've got a great show lined up tonight. An absolutely cracking show. So you want to be sharing this tonight because it's going to be fun. You want a history? I'm giving you history tonight. I'm going to give you some cracking history tonight, which is going to be great fun.
Oh, I'm down already.
Wendy's hurting. So that's it, liked and shared in the places I need to be. Let's just get the thing up on here. I've got a few photographs to go through here first while I do my history lesson, and then I should come on and take the questions in a bit. Unless there's anything burning that can't wait, and then you can fire them straight into Wendy, and she should get them. But other than that, we should be fairly alright. Okay. Let's go back to my photos. Right,
Oh, I recognise that place.
What's that? You will do. You will recognise the story today as well, Wendy. Okay, couple of mentions to do for today then, first of all. VetLink. Have a quick butchers on there, Wendy. Show them VetLink. vet-link.org. Go and have a butchers at VetLink. I've wrote a piece for them, and it basically deals with everything you need to know transitioning from the military back into Civvy Street. Loads of stuff on there. Really informative site. Doing a good job. Helping a lot of people out. So please go and have a butchers at it. Loads of information on there, help with CVs, that sort of stuff. So if you're thinking about getting out of the military and you're a little bit unsure, or you're out of the military and you're a little bit lost, go and have a butchers at that place and they'll help you out. I promise you that. Okay, the next ones I want you to have a look at is the Hosties. Hosties for Heroes, shaking up a cocktail of mud and glamour. Air hostesses raising money for Help for Heroes. Toughness is in the soul and spirit, not in the muscles. Okay, group of young ladies, all air hostesses, and they're helping me out with a couple of things with the boxing this year, and all will be revealed later on, but very helpful. And they've done some stuff with Breakpoint and Ollie and Foxy and all the gang from Channel 4 and all that sort of stuff. So they've been helping out there. I think Jimbo's been involved in there. You can see Jimbo at the back there grinning like a Cheshire cat. Foxy and Ollie, and of course Billy's there as well. So Billy grinning like a Cheshire cat. Anyway, we're going to do a few bits and pieces with them, doing loads of stuff. So there we go. So that's two of my mentions. So that's my boxing done. Okay, today then. Today is a history show, and just show that cap badge there, Wendy. We're going to talk about the artist rifles, okay, because they play a very important part in the history of the British Army. They also play a very important part in the history and the making of 22 Special Air Service, okay, 22 SAS, which of course is where I didn't come from, but where I served for a number of years. So that is my regiment. So there's a link between me and them. Okay, interestingly enough, it was formed by a guy also called Sterling, but this guy was called Edward Sterling. I think he was an artist or a poet. And basically, the artist rifles were formed in London in 1860 odd, 1859 officially. I think the first talks got underway, but they were actually up and running by 1860. And it was basically London's artists. Who else did they have? They had musicians, artists, poets, all those sorts of people drafted in. And the original thing was they thought the French were going to invade. So what they wanted, they had them as some sort of like a home guard who were going to be, deployed against the French if they invaded the UK. They then transpired. They went and fought in the Boer War with distinction. Okay, still using this band of artists and painters, and there's some really interesting stuff has been thrown up along the years because they had artists, they had poets. So the poets and the artists, you can imagine sending a poet to war. He'd fucking write it all down, and he'd get loads and loads of interesting stuff. And it's an amazing journey that I did a good bit of research on this, and it's been an amazing journey. I found out loads of stuff I didn't know. Okay, so the cat badge. Let's just quickly talk about their cat badge. Mars and Minerva, both gods of war, okay? And both Mars and Minerva had a link to safeguarding the arts as a Roman god. So that's where the connection between the artists and the gods of Mars and Minerva have turned into their cat badge. So a lot of thought there, you can see. Must have been, they were educated men. In the early days, they were proper educated men, these people, okay? And hence, okay, eventually they actually became like an officer training corps. But anyway, before they did that, in World War One, they became absolutely fucking huge. In the first week of the war breaking out, they recruited over 5,000 people, okay? And they fought. They fought in the trenches. Originally, they were deployed in the UK, but then they soon took them over to France, and they were in the trenches. Somme, Ypres, all those sorts of places, okay? Hideous, hideous places to serve. And again, you can imagine, you sent an artist over there. There was one guy called Edward Thomas. He was sent over there. He was killed within an hour of his first battle. And he wrote some interesting stuff, but before he died, he wrote a poem called Rain. So if you want to look up a poem called Rain, I'm not going to read any extracts from that poet today, but there is a poem called Rain by a guy called Edward Thomas. An extremely interesting poem, only a short one, but it really does capture the mood of a battle in the rain and the repeatedness of the rain and how it played out with his feelings. Anyway, he died. He got killed. That's the amazing thing for me. These people, these professional people, artists, actors, that they were sort of like the actors and that of the day. They were, you know, they were the interesting people. They were the elite of town. They were the people that were, they were the educated people, okay? And they were willing to throw themselves into the fray. They were willing to give up all that comfort and all that sort of stuff to become soldiers. So this is why, you know, I don't think enough emphasis is put on their cat badge anymore, okay? And certainly, you know, the guys that serve today, you know, they all wear the winged dagger and all that sort of stuff. But really, in essence, the Mars and Minerva cat badge, to me, holds so much history. You could almost be forgiven for being as proud of that as anything else, especially if you were a man of the arts, okay? So, let's have a quick look then. World War One, they got up to all sorts of stuff. I'm going to give you a tale of the tape for World War One, which I grabbed off online tonight. Right, during World War One then, they recruited over 14,000 people, 14,401 passed through their doors as recruits, okay? 10,000 of those, 10,256 to be precise, went on to be officers in other units, okay? 2,003 of those, so over 2,000 of those were killed. 3,250 were wounded seriously or gassed, imagine that, gassed, all right, ridiculous. 532 were posted as missing, war, and I believe they were all returned, as far as I know. Okay, so you can see they had a pretty rough time in World War One. And like I say, their numbers swelled and they were a proud unit. And like I say, in the first week of World War One breaking out, over 5,000 people applied to join the Artist Rifles, and they were actually in a position where they could pick and choose who they wanted, or actually go after people, target people around town and say, look, we want you. So they were in a very, very, very strong position. Okay, so we got World War One out of the way. They cruised around for a little bit more, and then they in World War Two, they actually became a training unit, for want of a better word, for officers. They actually sort of like had their own place up in Romford, and they trained officers. And they reckon they trained as many Ruperts during World War II as Sandhurst did. You can imagine, I mean, they were sending so many people forward in the battle, they'd have been losing so many, that to have an extra, they'd have had to have been training people up all over the place. So to have another semi-academy for officers would have been a requirement in those days, because Sandhurst would have swelled its ranks with people going through there. And like I say, the artists had this capability, had this natural brain resource of people who were talented and obviously educated, and you can, if a man is educated, normally you can turn his education towards anything, and so therefore they could retain information that was giving them and pass it on in such a manner that they could be understood. So they formed this thing. And anyway, so at the end of the war, World War II, they were disbanded. And about 1945, I think they were disbanded. But they were resurrected again. And this is where it becomes interesting for us as Special Forces operators, because they became resurrected as 2-1 Artist Rifles SAS Reserve. SAS SAS Reserve, 2-1 SAS Artist Rifles Reserve, okay, was the official title. And what had basically happened was, the SAS had nowhere to go, they had nowhere to go, and so they formed a territorial wing, okay, which was 2-1. And that was taken from 1 SAS and 2 SAS, they flipped it on its head and called it 2-1. So, the geezer, Riley, when you asked me the other day where did 2-2 come from, when then subsequently in the 50s it became a full-time regiment again, a permanent regiment was acquired of SAS, okay, and it was the only time a territorial army had ever turned into a full-time regular unit. They just progressed it. So it went from 2-1 to 2-2 SAS, 22 SAS. So that's where it comes from, my old China plate. And then later on, 2-3 SAS emerged, and they put the two together as both artist rifles, okay, so there was 2-1 and 2-3, which were reservists, artist rifles, okay, and 2-2 sort of like went off and continued to do its own thing, as we know it today. So, in the early days, 2-1 and 2-3 were like a stay-behind force, which were on the western front, the eastern front, facing the Russian front. That sort of dissolved, and they lost a bit of impetus. They picked up again and started doing a lot more stuff in aid of the regiment. I'm not going to go into exactly what their roles and responsibilities were, because that would be wrong of me to do so. But they still have a place, and they still have a place today. Now, they lost a bit of that kudos not so long ago when they unfortunately had those tragic accidents on the hills. And it just highlighted, I think, there seems to me like, and I'm not there at the moment, but there seems to me like there's been a little bit of a divide and a little bit of distance put between the regiment and the territorial side of it. And basically for the reasons that, you know, the regiment doesn't want to be seen to be involved in some of the stuff that's been going on lately with the 2-1 and the 2-3 aspect of stuff. That said, you know, it's still, you know, for me, the artist rifles have still provided us with a marvellous foundation for some great stuff. So, you know, I would applaud them. I think they're an absolutely cracking unit. It's a cracking history. The more I look into it, I was reading some stuff by a guy called Paul Nash, who became an officer eventually in the Hampshire Regiment, which was eventually my regiment, which was the Royal Hampshire Regiment when I joined it, having gained the title of Royal in the 40s. So there's a lot of cross-pollination in between my own history and the history of these people here. You know, my son's just about to pass out and become, you know, an officer in the 2nd Battalion, the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment, which hailed from the Royal Hampshires. You know, he's got a connection back to me. There's a link between myself being in the regiment, the SAS, and the artist. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and it's extremely interesting to me. And I hope you've enjoyed my little talk on the artist rifles. Okay, I was just going to read you one of the letters home from the guy Paul Nash, and he put, "I'm now an artist in a wider sense. I am now a white. I am now an artist in a wider sense. Okay, every man must do his bit in this horrendous business. So I've given up painting in a bid it addio for the time, who knows how long, to take up the queer business of soldiering." Now that letter itself, you know, probably isn't that important, but to me, in these days and in these times where we're having a lot of trouble with terrorism and all that sort of stuff, for me that's extremely important, because it seems to me that the sort of like artier-fartier types nowadays seem to be on this left-wing side of stuff, all right? And actually, here was a time where these people were proper artists and proper poets and proper people doing professional stuff, and they recognised that there was a horrendous, hideous, horrible fucking thing going on, right? And they went, no, you know, as cushy as my life is, I need to stand up and be counted, and I need to go to war. And when I quoted those figures earlier, 2,000 of these people died in muddy, horrible, sickening trenches with a honking death, all right? That, okay, to me, and that letter home to me says so much. It says to me that these people were proper. These people wanted to stand up and be counted. These people came off their sofas, came out of their privileged lifestyles to stand up and fight for this country. So nowadays, when you get these fucking people that do not want to be part of this fucking elite fucking country that we are, okay, you've got to ask yourselves why. Is it because you're fucking spineless? Is it because you've lost your bottle? Is it because you've got no belly for a fight?
Somebody said earlier on here, imagine the actors and artists going to do it now.
Fucking exactly. Drag that fucking shower of shit off the fucking television and you couldn't put them anywhere, all right? These people were proper, all right? They didn't have none of the luxuries and comfort or recognition or fucking, you know, stuff that these people have nowadays. They had proper fucking hearts.
It was Stefan Bull.
Yeah, well done, Stefan. Exactly where I was coming from with this, okay?
Can you imagine?
These people were proper. And hence why a band of fucking artists and fucking, you know, actors and shit like that actually became part of creating one of the fucking fiercest regiments in the world, the SAS. So fucking think about that, all right? That, to me, drives this whole artist rifles thing right home, okay? It's a proper, stand-up, hardened unit that's seen action, that's been out there, that's done the business, all right? And has had a massive hand to play in keeping special forces alive. So I'd thank the artist rifles, because if it wasn't for them, I might never have got to serve where I served, okay? So, you know, I think they're an outstanding unit. Just going to show you a few pictures there. There's another picture of Mars and Minerva in the cap badge. Have a quick butcher's round, Wendy. There's one of their World War I pictures where there are these very distinctive tunics which you can just about make out. They were all tipped in white and were sort of like this off-green grey colour. Which, you got to say, I mean, they're quite fucking dapper looking fellows. And you see the fella there with his chin on with his cheek on his hand. He's a, you know, proper dapper looking fella there, you know, right in the middle of it all. There's their clubhouse today, which I'm proud to say that I have been to their clubhouse. There's some really nice fellas drinking there, and that's down in Bisley, and I've been there on a number of occasions, and they've always made me feel really, really welcome. So they've been a tremendous gang down there. They're all into their shooting and all that sort of stuff, and rightly so. And here you go. Here's a famous one for you. Now that picture there, that was the campaign poster for World War One, and that was drawn by a bloke called Alfred Leet. Okay, that was designed by a guy called Alfred Leet, who himself was an artist rifle. Okay, so there you go. One of the most famous, iconic posters that ever was turned out by this country was produced by an artist rifle.
When I was really young, I used to go and stay at my uncle's at the weekend, right? And he had that picture on it, but it said, "We want you."
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that is the proper original of it. Yeah, you're right. Your country needs. There was all sorts of different variations, but that one there, that's the original.
And it used to scare me actually, because it was just looking at me in my uncle's flat, and I was like.
Anyway, so there we go.
I never knew what it was when I was little.
That was a very, very brief introduction to the artist rifles, and I'm extremely proud to have sort of like done a few bits and pieces with them, know a few people, and like I say, I'm glad to have been given the opportunity to pass that on to you, because I think it's important that we understand stuff like that, because it's in our makeup, it's in our DNA, and as a soldier, you know, you need to know that. Anyway, I'm going to take some questions and stuff now, as soon as I can get your screen up on my screen, and all that sort of stuff. I'll unplug that for now, because that's not required anymore.
Undo turn that.
There we go, I'll flick this up, I'll flick this on, and here we go. I should have some questions coming out soon now. I do it every time, don't I? Flick this up. There we go. Okay, right. So we'll turn that off. Right, that's off. Okay, right. Let's take some questions then. Let's see what's coming in. Hi, Patriots. Joshua Bible. Thanks very much. Martin Allen. I have a shirt like that. Says you're round, though. Okay, nice one. Debbie Coleman. Hi, Joshua. Susie Thomas. Hi, Joshua. Thanks for the invite. Sean Connolly. Well impressed and very interested, mate. Thanks, Sean. I did put a lot of research into this one tonight, because I wanted to get it across. There are, if you go online, quite a few bits and pieces. Wikipedia's got quite a decent little write-up. There's been a couple of little television podcasts done on it. Nothing major, I've got to say, but some really interesting stuff got thrown up when I was doing that. Okay, but what you done?
Neil wants to know how you're feeling.
How am I feeling?
Well, poorly
better than yesterday. Better than yesterday, mate. The show must go on. More history lessons, says Cole Billy. People do like the history, and if you do like it, I will do a few more. I think that, you know, that in the progression of things was a massive one for me to get out today. Vetlink, thank you for the mention, Phil. Not a problem, anytime you like. Did we ever do Hitler's will? Colt, I'm still sort of like collating Hitler's will into something that's interesting. It's massively complicated. There's a load of shit in there that would be sort of like, you know, imagine sort of like reading some of the stuff in there. He's not interested at all, to be honest. So I'm having a bit of a butcher's and a bit of a struggle there. What I want to do is bring in Damian Lewis, you know, world's best-selling author, all the rest of the shite that he does, and talk about it with him because he knows it inside out. And it'll be a lot more fun doing it with him because I can take the piss out of him. Dave Skelton, he loves military history. Good, so do I. Paul Craddock, is there any more para-trained persons in the regiment, or is it requirement that you are? Is there any non-para-trained? No, everybody's para-trained. Everybody's at least done rounds. Everybody does squares, a squares conversion. Everybody does a cerebral conversion. Everybody does night jumps, went jumps, and then the air troopers go on and they do their hey-ho. Although most guys probably would have done some form of, high altitude jump, even if it only be a hop and pop on the static line. So most guys would have done something like that. Great bit of history, says Jason Field. Cheers. I'm sorting something out for Armed Forces Day next year. I'm doing 100 miles in 3 days to raise the funds to get the Red Devils Parachute Regiment display team. I will do it, but I need help to raise funds, says Alex W. Kelly. Okay, well, you've done your little plug on there now. Get yourself a Just Giving page. I'll plug that for you as well. If you need me to go and speak to the Red Freds, I'll go and have a word with them and all on your behalf. Not a problem, okay?
Phil, what he said, Phil, your stand-up to terror wristbands are in demand. How can I get a box to dish out to my boys' mates who want them?
Go onto my www.born-fearless.shop and there's a contact thing there. Send an email to Loz and Loz will tell you how you can get hold of some bands.
And also somebody earlier on when the shows, they'll need to contact the website as well because they said that their shirt hasn't turned up yet.
Their shirt hasn't turned up yet.
Yeah.
Okay, right, get hold of Thingy. If not, pester me on here. Share. Yeah, let's have a quick like and share. Brian Hammer Taylor, maximum respect for you and passing on knowledge and experience for us all, Big Phil. But thanks very much. Brian, I've said it before, history is a massive thing to a soldier, and the more you can understand and the more you can get your head around it, the better it is, because, even, looking right back to, Carthage and places like that, when you look at the way things are laid out, when you look at the way they did things, when you look at the ideology behind what they were doing, some things don't change that much in hundreds of years, and it's just good to understand. And it's always, there's always an option where maybe you go back to something that happened years ago, and especially in the mentality of people. And like I say, the reason I mentioned that last thing, that letter home, that simple letter home, it just shows you the mentality of a whole generation of people. We're not just going to sit here on our answers. We're being turned over. We're being done. We need to do something about it. We'll go and fight. We will go and fight. Me, as an artist, with my pen and canvas, or my paintbrush and canvas, I'm going to put that down and I'm going to pick up a rifle and I'm going to fight. And that is strong, that's powerful, that's huge. That shows you that, these people, if we had a bit more of that solidarity nowadays, we would not be in the trouble we are. And I promise you that. Comes from an army family, huge respect, Susie Thomas, thank you very much, and huge respect to your family as well. Madge Baldry, hi Phil, I was married to a bootneck for 30 years. Felt I was in the Corps myself. Well, you were. You're as good as, you're in. That's it, you got your lid. Colin Brooks, 7th of September, release date.
That must be for the film, 6
For the
days.
film, yeah. Vernie Watson, got no pick at all. Okay, sorry Vernie.